On Wednesday, Republican gubernatorial nominee Lee Zeldin accused Governor Kathy Hochul of participating in what he calls an ongoing attack on Italian Americans. Standing in front of a Christopher Columbus statue in Queens, the GOP congressman derided calls to remove images of Columbus and replace Columbus Day with Indigenous Peoples Day, the latter of which Hochul supports. Across the nation, there is a growing movement to remove statues of the Italian explorer due to his brutal treatment of Native Americans. Columbus Day has been replaced with Indigenous Peoples Day in many cities and private enterprises. This move has become a hot point in the ongoing culture war, with many conservatives and some Italian Americans opposing these changes.
So, thank you for coming out. We are now approaching Columbus Day, and New York has a long, rich history of the relationship between the New York people and the Italian American community. And it is very important for the Italian American community to be able to celebrate the heritage and the history of their people with great pride. New Yorkers gather, not just Italian Americans, but also others, to celebrate on Columbus Day. We just saw the San Gennaro feast in Little Italy. Over the course of this past weekend, I had an opportunity to be with the community for the Columbus Lodge event in Massapequa, the San Gennaro feast of the Hamptons, which was out in the Hampton Bays. And there is a growing attack now that is targeting the Italian American community to try to get rid of their heritage, to attack their heritage. Whether it is the statue that is here behind us, whether it is Columbus Day that is soon approaching. Legislation was just introduced in the state legislature in both the Assembly and Senate to rename Columbus Day as Indigenous Peoples Day. Last Columbus Day, Governor Kathy Hochul signed a proclamation to name Columbus Day Indigenous Peoples Day. So this is something that is very important to the Italian American community. There might be people who are out there and they say, well, they just don't care. We're all entitled to our personal views, our passions. But I'll tell you what, for the Italian American community, this is as personal as it gets. This is a source of pride for them. They want to see a strong partnership with the state government. As soon as Governor Kathy Hochul came into office in August of 2021, she instantly got rid of this liaison in an office for the relationship between the state and the Italian American community, and the Italian American community was blindsided by it. This is a relationship that needs to be repaired, and certainly a relationship that is at risk if Governor Hochul continues down this path of targeting Columbus Day. She made a big mistake by signing that proclamation on Columbus Day last year, and I'm calling on Governor Hochul to certainly not to do that again this year. I'm calling on state legislators to speak out against this new legislation that's just been introduced, while I'm sure the bill's sponsors are trying to rally support for more people to sign on as co-sponsors, and I believe that that would be a bad idea. And further, where we stand here again today, behind us is a statue that local progressive groups have tried to remove. But this Italian American community is strong, they're correct, and they continue to fight for what they believe. They fight for their heritage, and they do it with an incredible sense of pride. I'd like to introduce Joseph Di Pietro. He's the president of the Federation of Italian American Organizations of Queens. Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Zeldin. Well, I don't want to say too many words. The one thing that I have in my heart is Columbus. Columbus was a great navigator, period. If we're going to look at every closet, we're going to find a lot of dead bones. He was a great navigator. We are so proud that his statue is here. This statue was donated by the Italian American immigrants, penny by penny. And now they want to take it down. I mean, we need a little respect. The Columbus heritage has to be kept alive. Thank you, Mr. Zeldin, and I hope that we can keep Columbus holiday alive, and whoever is against it, they should think twice about it. This is an insult to the Italian American community. Thank you, Mr. Zeldin.
Thank you. We're also joined here today by a candidate for New York State Attorney General Michael Henry.
Good morning and thank you all. Every year now, Italian Americans like myself have to brace for the assault on Christopher Columbus Day. And we are not going to erase Columbus Day because this is a sign and a symbol of the growth of the Italian American community in New York. Over 165 years ago, Italian Americans came to Ellis Island and many of them found their way to New York. And the reason they found their way to New York is because most people don't know they initially went to New Orleans and the anti-Italian sentiment was so bad there that they had to relocate and start coming to New York. My father had relatives that came here from Naples, Italy and changed their name and Americanized it because of anti-Italian bias. And nearly 100 years later, we're here still fighting anti-Italian bias. Now back in 2017, we saw how they tried to politically purge the Columbus Circle. That statue was built on donations from Il Progresso and Italian immigrants. This is a sense of pride for them. And it's simple. Italian Americans have helped build this city. The construction of this city, stonemasons. We have an airport right here named after an Italian American mayor. And nobody is saying you cannot have an Indigenous People Day. What we are saying is you don't have to tear down Italian American history in the process. In the contrast to the left, that's all about destruction, we believe you could bring another community up and recognize them without tearing another community down.
Thank you, Michael. We are also joined by candidate for United States Senate, Joe Pinion.
Well, I'm good. Good morning. Good to be here with all of you. Heartened to stand with the Italian American community to remind them that there are people who support their cause, who recognize that we do not have to tear down one subset of society to build up another. We are calling on New Yorkers to join us as we embrace telling the whole story, that the Italian American contributions to America and to this city are deep and should not be taken for granted. That there are people, as Michael mentioned, who were locked out of society because they had a vowel at the end of their name, changed their name to make sure that people didn't recognize that vowel. And now are being asked once again to erase a part of who they are in order for other people to sleep well at night. That is not New York. That is not America. And it is time to put down our political grievances and acknowledge the humanity that is embedded with each and every single one of us. If this is to be the melting pot, then we must be a society that acknowledges the fact that Italian Americans have their place, that black people have their place, that white people have their place, that all people, Asian, everywhere in between, they have a place in history that is etched and shall never be removed. And so I thank Lee Zeldin for coming here to help us spread this message all across Queens, all across this city, and all across this country, that the age of division is over, that we are here to say that every American should get to tell their story on their own terms. Thank you so much.
You want to promote your Columbus Day parade?
Oh, yes. Thank you. I almost forgot. On Saturday, October 8th, we're going to have our Columbus Day parade. We start off by Kaufman Studios. We go down, we go up Steinway Street. We come down 30th Avenue. We're finishing here. You're all invited to come. It's just celebrating Columbus, the great navigator. That's it, period. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Joe. And we're also joined by the Queens County Republican Committee Chair. Tony Nunziata is a very active leader in the Italian American community here in Queens and in neighboring boroughs as well. So thank you for joining us as well, Chairman, and for other leaders here who are with us today. And with that,